1. As consumers, we have the right to know what we are paying for, and as active participants in the exploitation of animals, we also have a moral obligation to confront the truth about the choices we make. The reality is that we all have our part to play in overcoming injustice, especially one so ubiquitous, systemic and universally perpetuated as the oppression of non-human animals. With the continuing industrialization of animal farming and the increasing number of animals being farmed, coupled with the ever-growing existential threat of climate change and future pandemics, it has never been more important to address our current food system and challenge ourselves as individuals and consumers. By doing this, we can then challenge the normalization of our dominance over non-human animals, and the natural world that in turn negatively impacts every life on this planet, ours included. Fundamentally, that's an attempt to hold up a mirror to the absurdity of what we are doing, and reveal the solution that is right there in front of us. 2. The terms creativity and musician were once inseparable. In the classical world, based on the conservatory approach, the creativity part has seemed to have all but disappeared. Yes, we are all creative beasts in some form, but in classical music and music education in general, creativity typically equates with being able to recreate a piece of music, slightly differently from the way someone else does. For the most part, the instructions on how to play the piece of music are written directly onto the page, and the only part up for debate is how the instructions are to be interpreted by the musician playing that piece. Even then, there are generally accepted ways to interpret a piece of music that are considered conventional and stylistically appropriate. In every other genre of music outside of classical, and jazz to some degree, creativity and creating something new is part of being a musician, and is never separated from that, nor does it rely solely on reproducing other people's music to exist. 3. What is normal? Dictionary definitions include usual or typical. Normal doesn't mean there's never a cause for concern, or that there's nothing that can be done to make things better. Normal age-related changes can affect what you do day to day and how you feel, both physically and emotionally. We're lucky to live at a time when so many adaptive devices and technologies are available. When you turn 40 or so, you develop blurred vision, while doing close-up work, reading, using the computer, or sewing, for example. This is called presbyopia. It is normal, and hopefully you will respond by getting glasses to correct your vision. Without glasses, you wouldn't be able to live a normal life, and your new visual impairment would become a disability. We don't usually think of glasses as assistive devices, yet they are, just like canes or hearing aids. They can make an enormous difference in the quality of our lives as we age. However, this will happen only if we recognize how they improve our function and ability to engage with the world when using them. 4. Bee hunting, also known as beelining, used to be practiced widely in Europe, North America, the Middle East, and Africa. Indeed, it may be a pursuit as old as humankind, for it is likely that early humans, living in hunter-gatherer groups, searched for nests of honey bees and robbed them of brood and honey for food, as do some of the hunter-gatherer peoples who have survived to the present time. Probably the earliest written description of the methods for finding the nest of a wild honeybee colony by lining bees, is that of Columella, a Roman farm owner and writer on agriculture who lived in the 1st century AD. In his book on the cultivation of bees, he gives delightfully detailed instructions for capturing bees at a spring, feeding them honey, and then releasing them one by one, to trail them back to the lurking place of the swarm. 5-6. One of the most dangerous properties of language is that it allows us to say things that aren't true. The danger is not just that people may be misled, but that falsehood may be more effective than truth. Truth becomes a victim of human sociality. The strength of human commitment to beliefs in supernatural entities and conspiracy theories, a kind of commitment found in human groups worldwide, draws precisely on the disconnect between a statement and the reality it claims to describe. If a group of people collectively state a belief in something that is likely to be false, then the statement, far from seeding doubt, will work as an honest signal of each individual's commitment to the group. Author Curtis Yarvin explains the attraction of improbable ideas in building social movements. For the purpose of social loyalty, it's actually better if the belief that people coordinate around is clearly false. Nonsense is a more effective organizing tool than the truth. To believe in nonsense is an unforgeable demonstration of loyalty. It serves as a political uniform. And if you have a uniform, you have an army. This is all very well, if your only goal is to secure loyalty in defending a position, but reality will come for you at some point. While real soldiers may swear loyalty to magical ideas, they are ultimately in the business of physical force, not magic but brute reality. Once a bullet is flying, neither words nor the beliefs they express can stop it. 7. Reading is a tool for understanding human cognition. The capacity to use language evolved in humans over many thousands of years, the end result being that children acquire it easily and rapidly through interactions with other speakers. Reading is different. It is a technology, like radio, that came into existence because a person, or possibly several, had the insight to invent it. The advent of reading occurred relatively recently in human history, well after humans had evolved capacities to speak, think, perceive, reason, learn, and act. Reading was a new tool created out of existing parts. The fortuitous byproduct of this history is that we can use reading to investigate all these capacities. A person doesn't have to be a reading scientist to study reading. They might study vision or memory, for example, using experimental methods that happen to involve having people read words and sentences. This bonus has resulted in the creation of a research literature of exceptional depth and quality. 8. When talking about the shared assumptions that emerge from our social interactions and that we use to define reality, we need to also consider how these assumptions and ideas get communicated from person to person, and then across entire populations. How does this actually happen? Communication takes place through the symbolic meanings that are captured in the words we say, and how we say them, the behaviors we exhibit, the gestures we perform, the clothes we wear, the makeup we don't apply, and so on. This particular view of social behavior can be summed up with the following statement: humans act toward things on the basis of the meanings they ascribe to those things, and those meanings are, in the first place, created, and continuously recreated, through social interaction. This is yet another way of saying that reality is a subjective construction rather than an objective fact. It emerges from the infinite transactions or forms of communication between people. 9. Good ideas, like a new way of treating a deadly disease or the perfect breakup song, have the potential to improve lives. We want them to spread. So we should celebrate the fact that information goods don't run out or wear down. But the public goods characteristics of information resources create a potential problem. Although a groundbreaking treatment or a heartbreaking song can be freely shared and enjoyed, making something new requires investments of time, effort, and money. If creators cannot recover those investments, plus a reasonable profit for their trouble, some will be dissuaded. In a world where creating new works is expensive and copying them is cheap and easy for the public, poets will become accountants, and inventors will become plumbers. Intellectual property, IP, law is meant to remedy this public goods problem, the feared undersupply of creative investment, by creating legal barriers to competition by prohibiting copying. IP rights are an effort to overcome the inherent characteristics of intellectual resources and force them to behave more like tangible property. 10. When we reflect on our past, we can see that the directions we have taken can often be traced back to one single, short moment. Our lives often turn on what at the time seemed to be the most trivial of occurrences, a chance meeting and a single sentence that was or wasn't said. As one ages and becomes wiser, it becomes possible to see that life is governed in this way and that the big things in life, such as who one marries, what career one pursues, where one lives and so on, often arise from such unexpected everyday and, at the time, seemingly trivial encounters. To be able to navigate life successfully, so that you make the best decisions for yourself at any given moment, you need to be authentic, you need to be able to counter external influences, pulling you to go against the grain of your own gut feelings. Authenticity is at the heart of our decision-making, and it is in each and every small moment in life that it makes a difference. We are constantly in the process of creating ourselves. 11-12. Across the sciences and society, in politics and education, in warfare and commerce, new technologies do not merely augment our abilities, but actively shape and direct them, for better and for worse. It is increasingly necessary to be able to think of new technologies in different ways, and to be critical of them, in order to meaningfully participate in that shaping and directing. If we do not understand how complex technologies function, how systems of technologies interconnect, and how systems of systems interact, then we are powerless within them, and their potential is more easily captured by selfish elites and inhuman corporations. Precisely because these technologies interact with one another in unexpected and often strange ways, and because we are completely entangled with them, this understanding cannot be limited to the practicalities of how things work, it must be extended to how things came to be, and how they continue to function in the world in ways that are often invisible and interwoven. What is required is not understanding, but literacy. True literacy in systems consists of much more than simple understanding, and might be understood and practiced in multiple ways. It goes beyond a system's functional use to comprehend its context and consequences. It refuses to see the application of any one system as a cure-all, insisting upon the interrelationships of systems and the inherent limitations of any single solution. It is fluent not only in the language of a system, but in its metalanguage, the language it uses to talk about itself and to interact with other systems, and is sensitive to the limitations and the potential uses and abuses of that metalanguage. It is, crucially, capable of both performing and responding to critique.